In today's day and age, you can go from one card and summon a full field of boss monsters, but back in the early days of the game, you could also summon a full field of boss monsters?
Wait a minute, did you just summon a bunch of monsters in one turn?
Alright, but for real, the anime thrives on the boss monster summon. It's usually the climax of the duel, whether it be something that our hero must overcome, or a great comeback to seal the win, and everything in between. In this video, let's count down the top 20 boss monster summons from the original Duel Monsters. My first top 20 list, but I felt there were too many iconic moments to cut it to top 10. For this list, I do have defined criteria that I'll be using to grade each summon. First is the complexity of the summon. I joked about it earlier, but of course in Duelist Kingdom, when a player can summon high-level monsters without tributes, doesn't mean as much as, say, a multi-card combo or a multi-turn setup, so complexity matters. Second is the shock factor, which is really an underrated aspect of boss summons, but definitely makes them more memorable. Basically, if you didn't see it coming, it gets more points. Third is the aesthetic, so how cool is the summon both in terms of animation and in relation to the duel action. And fourth is timeliness, or put another way, how critical is the moment in which the boss monster is summoned, how clutch is it, and to what degree is it the only card that could have worked in that situation. For example, a boss summoned turn 1 doesn't have as much bearing as a boss that's summoned to win the game. One more note about grading, it's done on a relative scale, meaning only one score of 10 will be handed out for each of the categories, 3 9s, 5 8s, and 10 7s, no limits on 6s and below. This allowed me to really parse between each summon without ending up with a bunch of ties, but if there were ties, then the tiebreaker is the secret 5th criteria of how formidable the boss is, including how powerful its stats and effects, as well as how easily it can be handled. With all that laid out, let's count it.
Red Eyes, Black Dragon, and Summon Skull, combine yourselves into one!
Coming in at number 20, Joey summons Black Skull Dragon versus Yugi in the Duelist Kingdom Finals with a 7 in complexity, 7 in shock factor, 5 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of 25. While Black Skull Dragon makes its debut when Yugi and Joey pair off against the Paradox Brothers, its true moment to shine comes in the Duelist Kingdom Finals, showcasing Joey at his best. Joey uses both his card-stealing cards, Grave Robber and Copycat, to steal Yugi's summon Skull and Polymerization, combining it with his Red Eyes to bring out the biggest monster either of them have to take down the 2600 attack Gaia the Dragon Champion. What's especially interesting is that Joey himself doesn't have Polymerization in his own deck, only learning how to use it by watching Yugi, which further demonstrates how far he's come in nearly getting the upset win over the eventual King of Games.
Unforgettable creature known only as Relinquished. Quite a looker, huh?
Coming in at number 19, Pegasus summons Relinquished versus Yugi with a 5 in complexity, 8 in shock factor, 6 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of 25, edging out Black Skull Dragon with a formidability score of 5-4. Spoiler alert, Thousand Eyes Restrict just barely missed a cut from the top 20, and while more formidable than its ritual material, it's Relinquished that shocks us first as Pegasus transitions from his outer jovialness to his inner darkness, bringing out a monster only he owns that can take on any monster and turn the battle damage back to its owner.
I now hold the most destructive war machine ever created, and it's pointed at you!
Coming in at number 18, Alistair summons Air Fortress Ziggurat versus Kaiba with a 6 in complexity, 6 in shock factor, 7 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of 25, edging out Relinquished on formidability 6-5. Ziggurat is huge, easily dwarfing the jet on which the duel takes place. Modeled after his late brother's action figure, Ziggurat symbolizes the deepest pain of Alistair while rocking strong effects of token spawning and spell trap protection to boot. Ziggurat's arrival also ends off Alistair's combo that includes ripping Kaiba's hand, leaving him with little resources to take down the giant war machine. But, as Kaiba always says,
If at first you don't succeed, blast them with your blue eyes again!
Coming in at number 17, the Big Five summon 5-headed dragon versus Yugi and Joey in Virtual World with a 5 in complexity, 6 in shock factor, 8 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of, you guessed it, 25, edging out the rest of the 25s with a formidability score of 7. The anime version not only maintains its protection against battle with non-light monsters, but also destroys all other cards on the field on summon. 5-headed dragon at this point in the anime is actually a ritual monster where the Big Five need to tribute a dark wind, water, fire, and earth monster, so they tribute their 5 deck masters to bring out their strongest boss. And while Berserk Dragon is their last laugh, Five-Headed Dragon is easily the card that represents them best, as well as being the strongest ritual monster of the anime.
What in the world?
Coming in at number 16, Joey summons Lord of Red vs. Valen with a 6 in complexity, 6 in shock factor, 8 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of 26. The whole Gundam style aspect of this duel makes it one of those things you either really love or really hate, but nonetheless, the summoning of Lord of Red is a hype moment. Joey rolls a 4 with Roll of Fate to draw 4 cards, getting him to Red Eye's Transmigration that he can use to tribute his Flare token, and Red Eyes in hand to transform the armor he's currently wearing into a Red Eyes Dragon cosplay. The green aura with the spirit of Red Eyes roaring is a great visual as Joey takes his fist fighting to another level.
Now behold the power of Dark Paladin, the ultimate magical swordsman!
Coming in at number 15, the Pharaoh summons Dark Paladin vs. Kaiba with a 7 in complexity, 6 in shock factor, 5 in aesthetic, and an 8 in timeliness for a total score of 26, edging out Lord of Red on formidability 5-4. We go into this duel thinking it'll be a showdown of Slifer vs. Obelisk, but the finale brings it back to the classics as Blue Eyes Ultimate takes on a fusion variant of Dark Magician. The complexity here gets extra points given how Kaiba's final attack orders forces both players to reduce their decks to 3 cards. The Pharaoh foresees that Kaiba will bring out Blue Eyes Ultimate, prompting the Pharaoh to plot out his own move into the Magical Swordsman as the perfect counter.
When Iatos goes to the graveyard, this monster is summoned to the field in its place. So say hello to my guardian Dread Scythe.
Coming in at number 14, we bring it back to Adoma Swordsman. Raphael summons Guardian Dreadside versus the Pharaoh with a 5 in complexity, 7 in shock factor, 7 in aesthetic, and a 7 in timeliness for a total score of 26, edging out Dark Paladin on formidability 7-5. Raphael makes it known during his first duel with the Pharaoh that he'll do anything to protect his monsters from hitting the grave, which is why his turn to the dark side comes as such a shock when he lets the angel Iatos rest in the grave in order to bring out her dark side, the Dread Scythe. The aesthetic of this is especially noteworthy because unless you're the ever unflinchable Kaiba, you're creeped out by this thing erupting from the ground with a scythe in hand ready to slice anything in its way. Dread Scythe, in addition to boasting 5500 attack, also revives itself anytime it's destroyed at the measly cost of a single discard.
You may have succeeded in putting Yugi out of commission, but not before his final courageous act set the stage for the greatest magician in all of Duel Monsters.
Coming in at number 13, the Pharaoh summons Magician of Black Chaos versus Pegasus with a 6 in complexity, 8 in shock factor, 6 in aesthetic, and a 7 in timeliness for a total score of 27. The Ultimate Magician's appearance comes at a critical time with Jig and Bakudan about to explode and take out Dark Magician with the rest of the Pharaoh's life points. The Pharaoh top decks Brain Control to take control of Bakudan, then flips over the card Yugi set as his final move before he passed out, revealing it to be Dark Magic Ritual, tributing off the Time Bomb and Dark Magician to summon the Chaos Mage. Even Pegasus can't believe his eyes as in the dub he repeats,
Not him! Not him!
The Pharaoh's trust in his partner pays off in the form of the strongest magician in Yugi's deck and the card that eventually strikes the decisive blow to save the souls of Yugi's grandpa and the Kaiba brothers.
Meet Guilford the Lightning!
Coming in at number 12, Joey summons Guilford the Lightning versus Marek with a 7 in complexity, 7 in shock factor, 7 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of 27, edging out Magician of Black Chaos on formidability 6-3. Whereas the other semifinalists of Battle City have a legitimate Egyptian god card, Guilford is Joey's 3 tribute equivalent. However, in this case, Guilford isn't just a triple tribute because Joey must first free his monsters from Plasma Eel to be able to tribute them, while also getting rid of the lava golem that keeps burning him. But while Guilford does rid the field of Marek's monsters, he isn't able to deal a strike on his life points, then immediately dispensed of by Phoenix Mode Ra. However, the aesthetic here is fantastic as a lightning warrior emerges from the shadows against a backdrop of lightning, fitting for Joey's ultimate fighting machine.
Opening the gates of chaos, bringing forth the Blackluster Soldier!
Coming in at number 11, we go back to Duel's Kingdom for another ritual summon. The Pharaoh summons Blackluster Soldier versus Mai with a 6 in complexity, 7 in shock factor, 8 in aesthetic, and a 7 in timeliness for a total score of 28. This comes during the Duel's Kingdom semifinals where the Pharaoh is already looking ahead to Pegasus and thus overlooking his current opponent, allowing Mai to take a commanding lead both in life points and field presence. While the Pharaoh is able to break through her Shadow of Eyes and Mirror Wall tricks, he still needs an answer to her pet dragon and Field of Harpies, which he finds thanks to the 3 turns bought by Swords of Revealing Light. The resulting ritual summon is the legendary Black Luster Soldier, a monster that rivals the Blue Eyes White Dragon and has Mai so shook, she quits. I especially love the aesthetic here, as well as the gates of chaos open and Gaia charges through, entering in as knight on horseback and emerging as the Soldier of Chaos.
Let anyone who doubts my power feel the fire of the mighty winged dragon of Ra!
Time for a halftime break with our dishonorable mentions. First up, Odeon summons the counterfeit winged dragon of Ra. Just about every Ra summon has a great aesthetic, and the best of these may very well be the counterfeit one, as a humongous Ra emerges from the dark clouds, engulfed in flames as it hovers behind the Temple of the Kings. The counterfeit, though, angers the real Ra, adding to the aesthetic as lightning bolts tear the sky and strike both duelists in anger, turning a slam dunk win for Odeon into an improbable win for Joey. The moral of the story is that if you summon a boss monster and it ends up helping your opponent win, it's a quick way to land yourself on the list of dishonorable mentions.
Just look at your pathetic creature! It's powerless!
Odeon is alone, however, because our second dishonorable mention is yet another botched summoning of Ra, this time by Bakura. Bakura steals Ra from Yami Merrick, but as he attempts to summon it, Yami Merrick's Joyful Doom drains the attack of the tributes, causing Ra to come out with 0 attack. Not knowing the full extent of Ra's powers, Bakura tributes Ra away for Dark Ruler Hades, not realizing that he just gave Yami Merrick access to the most powerful card in the game, resulting in his own loss. But while the boss summon itself doesn't pay off for Bakura, I will say that the image of Ra emerging behind him has always been one of my favorite scenes from all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, it's already a great look, but based on what we learned later, little did we know what we were looking at, which was Zork, the embodiment of darkness, commanding the most powerful Egyptian god. Only thing missing here was Bakura reciting the ancient chant, but I suppose they didn't want to bore us with that every single time Ra was summoned. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction!
Not that!
Coming in at number 10, Yugi summons Gandora vs Bakura with a 5 in complexity, 6 in shock factor, 8 in aesthetic, and a 9 in timeliness for a total score of 28, edging out BLS on formidability 7-4. For a dude running a Marshmallow and the Pipsqueak silent monsters, Yugi's use of a destructive dragon takes even his closest friends by surprise. Bakura is more so annoyed by the fact that his deck destruction strategy reduced Yugi to 1 card, which just happened to be the one Yugi needed to break the undead lock. Gandora's effect allows Yugi to rid the field of Bakura's cards, thus bringing back Silent Swordsman to go for game and get back to the Pharaoh with his lost name.
And with age comes great wisdom. 1,000 years of wisdom that have transformed him into the Dark Sage.
Coming in at number 9, the Pharaoh summons Dark Sage vs Joey with a 7 in complexity, 8 in shock factor, 5 in aesthetic, and a 9 in timeliness for a total score of 29. At this late of stage into the season, you would think the RPGS moves aren't too shocking, but this one still has people calling shenanigans to this day, and the complexity of it hinges on the fact that Yugi can only summon Dark Sage by having his opponent run a very specific card and get the timer lit successfully while Dark Magician is already out, hence the conspiracy theory that Yugi was setting up Joey all along by giving him Time Wizard. The skinny old man transforming into floating old man could have been presented better, but its timeliness is near perfect as it is the only possible answer the Pharaoh could have had to Joey otherwise striking for game with his Thousand Dragon. The next 3 are all tied at a score of 29 as well, but also tied on formidability at 8, so I simply handpicked them in order of least to most personal preference. Starting with number 8, the Pharaoh summons Slifer vs Bakura with a 6 in complexity, 6 in shock factor, 8 in aesthetic, and a 9 in timeliness for a total score of 29. This is the second entry of Yugi top decking against Bakura in the nick of time, and this time, it's saving himself from between a rock and a hard place, because if the Pharaoh attacks with any of his non-god monsters, the Dark Sanctuary of Spirit will burn him for game. But if he passes, Destiny Board will spell a win for Bakura. Nothing here is overly shocking with the Pharaoh getting just what he needs on the final draw, but it is a nice treat to see the Pharaoh summon Slifer for the first time, and the aesthetic that comes with it of wrapping around the Kaiba Corp blimp and that majestic roar against the Thief King.
Appear in this shadow game as I call your name, Winged Dragon of Ra!
Coming in at number 7, Merrick summons the Winged Dragon of Ra vs Mai with a 6 in complexity, 8 in shock factor, 9 in aesthetic, and a 6 in timeliness for a total score of 29. Ra, as I said, scores pretty well on aesthetics just about every time he comes out, with his first summon coming alongside his first release from the Sphere mode and the Ancient Chant to boot, as the rest watch in a mix of horror and awe upon the summon of the greatest duel monster. The shock factor is notable for how Merrick gets Ra, as it is actually Mai who summons it, but thanks to the requirement of the Ancient Chant, only known to those with ties to the Ancient Past, she is unable to control it, thus allowing Merrick to seize control of Ra and take advantage of the hard work she put in to steal Ra and tribute off 3 of her monsters for it.
My mighty Egyptian god card is here at last!
Coming in at number 6, Kaiba summons Obelisk versus the Pharaoh in the Battle City semifinals with a 7 in complexity, 5 in shock factor, 9 in aesthetic, and an 8 in timeliness for a total score of 29. Like the previous 2 entries, Obelisk is summoned via 3 tributes, though this one is a bit quirky given the Battle City rules, which allow a fusion monster to count for as many tributes as it has materials, so Kaiba only has to tribute the XYZ Dragon Cannon since it has 3 materials. Kaiba has managed to summon Obelisk in all his duels, so it's not necessarily the most shocking thing, but the timeliness is key here because Kaiba is already staring down Slifer the Sky Dragon and in need of his own god card to answer. The aesthetic here is brilliant, as not only is the summon well animated with Obelisk descending from the skies into a grand light show behind Kaiba, but we're left with both cards staring each other down as the episode comes to its cliffhanger ending.
Now observe as I summon my blue eyes! Show yourself!
Coming in at number 5, Kaiba summons Blue Eyes versus Ishizu with a 5 in complexity, 7 in aesthetic, 8 in timeliness, and our first perfect score of a category, 10 in shock factor for a total score of 30. This whole duel were fed Ishizu's vision from her necklace, showing that Kaiba will attempt to strike for game with the Obelisk, but be thwarted by blast held by a tribute. And while even the kids watching may correctly assume that Kaiba will find a way out of it, I don't think anyone expects for that to include tributing off the god card he's been rubbing in everybody's face all season for his true love, the Engine of Destruction itself. Even the characters are completely shocked by this move, but it proves to be the correct one as old Blue Eyes saves Kaiba from an unceremonious exit from his own tournament and propels him into the semifinals, where he then faces an unceremonious exit from his own tournament.
Now, behold the power of my Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon! The strongest monster in Kaiba's deck!
Coming in at number 4, the Pharaoh summons Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon versus Noah with a 7 in complexity, 9 in shock factor, 6 in aesthetic, and the next perfect score, a 10 in timeliness for a total score of 32. This is a weird situation in which Yugi took over for Kaiba in the duel against Noah after Kaiba was turned to stone, so he's still using Kaiba's cards as well as some of his own, but what makes this so shocking and so cool is to see Kaiba's ace at the beck and call of Yugi instead. And when I say beck and call, I do mean beck and call, as Yugi is only able to assemble the Ultimate Dragon thanks to Card of Sanctity, which nets him 6 cards, including Reborn, 2 Blue Eyes, and a Polymerization to summon the ultimate boss. So the complexity isn't just how unlikely it was to get that perfect hand, but of course, nothing is impossible with the friendship-infused heart of the cards. And this is undoubtedly as timely as it gets because Yugi is down to his final 100 life points while Noah has a whopping 10,000. This was the only boss monster that could finish off the duel, paired with the other 2 cards from Card of Sanctity, Quick Attack and Diffusion, and the King of Games pulls it off.
What's going on?
The moment Shunaros was vanquished, my divine serpent was born!
Coming in at number 3, Dart summons Divine Serpent Geh versus the Pharaoh with a 9 in shock factor, 5 in aesthetic, an 8 in timeliness, and our third perfect score, 10 in complexity, for a total score of 32, edging out the Ultimate Dragon with a formidability score of 9 to 5. The Divine Serpent is a superb monster in a lineup of superb monsters run by Darts, and the Infinite Attack Behemoth is the most complex card to bring out, as it starts with Kyutora first being destroyed to bring out Orichalcos Shunaros, then Shunaros comes out with an attack equal to the life point damage absorbed by Kyutora, and will lose attack anytime its arms battle. Once its attack is reduced to 0, then it has to be destroyed, and Darts has to have 10,000 life points to pay, and at least 1 card in hand to discard to finally bring out the Divine Serpent. Shunaros itself is already so formidable that this next escalation into an even more powerful monster ups the shock factor as we edge into the climax of the duel. Honestly, the only thing missing from all of this is the aesthetic. I appreciate the dark fog surrounding Darts as he smiles at the Pharaoh's false hope, but then to simply pan to a snake inside a black hole, that could have been better. Coming in at number 2, we stay in the same duel as the Pharaoh summons the legendary Knights with straight 8s in complexity, shock factor, aesthetic, and timeliness for a total score of 32. This actually ties with Gea for formidability as well at 9, but since the legendary Knights take out the Serpent, I give them the edge on this list as well. The Pharaoh top decks into the card given to him by Pegasus, Legend of Heart, which at the cost of 1,000 life points and tributing his obnoxious Celtic guard, allows him to make use of the 3 legendary dragon cards sitting in his grave to bring out their human forms, the legendary Knights. The revelation that they are human knights locked away by darts is a shock in and of itself, and their timeliness comes at a point that not only enables the Pharaoh to break down the 3 levels of the Seal of Orichalcos, but to take down Shuneros and then the Divine Serpent with an attack greater than infinity.
The unstoppable Exodia!
Impossible!
The first honorable mention goes to the Pharaoh summoning Exodia against Kaiba in the very first episode. This technically isn't a summon since Exodia is a win condition from the hand, hence why it doesn't make the official top 20, but the animation is there to demonstrate the might of Exodia, and is still one of the most iconic scenes from all of Yu-Gi-Oh!
You've completed the summoning!
Yes, and now I summon the Dark Magician!
The Dark Magician? Ah!
The second honorable mention goes to the Pharaoh summoning Dark Magician in Dungeon Dice Monsters against Duke. Since this wasn't from the card game, it didn't make the official list either, but not only is the Pharaoh summoning his trusted advisor an absolute clutch play, it comes to the shock of the creator of the game himself, showing just how quickly the Pharaoh can master any game he picks up. And the third honorable mention goes to Kaiba in the Dark Side of Dimensions summoning Obelisk from the ground. I didn't include DSOD on the list proper since the differences in gameplay and animation make it apples and oranges to compare to the original anime, but it is far and away the most noteworthy summon from the movie. Technically, Obelisk shouldn't be around any longer after it and the remaining Egyptian god cards were used to return the Pharaoh to his resting place, but that doesn't stop Kaiba from screwing the rules. With his back against the wall and his undying will to duel the Pharaoh once more, he pulls the card from the ground, and with the effect of his trap countergate, summons it on the spot to turn the tide in his duel against Diva.
Is he? He is!
Almighty protector of the sun and sky, I beg of thee, please heed my cry.
But first I shall call out thy name, Winged Dragon of Ra!
And taking the top spot for Best Boss Monster Summon, Atem summons the Winged Dragon of Ra versus Yugi with a 9 in complexity, 9 in shock factor, 5 in timeliness, and earning the final perfect score, 10 in aesthetic for a total score of 33. This summon of Ra is a step above its other appearances for the simple fact that the Pharaoh already has Obelisk and Slifer on board, with the latter having been summoned that same turn. Assembling the 3 god cards is an incredible demonstration of the Pharaoh's power, so much so that as he readies to summon Ra, all the spectators of the duel can't believe what's about to go down. And the aesthetic, man. First, we get to see Pharaoh recite the ancient chant, then is the shock faces of all the spectators as well as Yugi staring down the 3 greatest duel monsters, and finally the episode ends off with the 3 god cards behind the Pharaoh as he's imbued by this full-powered Super Saiyan glow. Just absolutely beautiful. And this summon of a god card is far more complex than tributing 3 monsters because the only reason the Pharaoh can get 3 monsters on board is through the use of the Face Knight's effects, but the only reason he can get them on board is due to summoning clock, letting him summon 3 monsters because it has been on the field for 3 turns. And the only reason it's been quote-unquote on the field for 3 turns is because of a card that is actually played by Yugi, Turn Jump, which moves the turn count by 3. And while the timeliness of the duel is still early on, the fact that he can summon the 3 strongest monsters in the game so early is not only impressive, but demonstrates that Atem was in it to win it. So that's my list of the top 20 boss monster summons from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Comment your own favorite boss summons, then be a boss and like, share, and subscribe for more content like this in the future.